Yo,
Yo, one small concern is that I can like only hear you. Usually I'm able to hear the commercials.
okay. That's weird. All right. Well, ad lib, we're about to come back. We're about to come in. I'll figure. Still nothing, huh? Still nothing?
No, testing. Can you hear me?
Still nothing?
Can you hear me though? Testing. Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Radio Show. I think we'll probably just figure it out as we go along. Little technical difficulties to get started. As long as you guys can hear me okay, no problem getting started here. Tough Cover Radio Show Super Bowl Contest Spectacular is here. We are bringing on the best and the brightest from here at Fox Sports The Gambler. We've got 7 guys coming on to give you, or I guess 8 if you include me, 8 from the Gambler Gang, giving us our top 5 favorite bets for the Super Bowl. You could go with the -110s and the easy shots. You could go with a long shot and try to boost your odds to win the contest. A lot of different ways of cutting the pie, but we've got all the best here from the Gambler, giving our favorite picks on the Super Bowl. And starting it off, we've got our guy, Luke Arcany. You can follow over on Twitter.
Big Luke.
Arcany. Luke, how we feeling?
Feeling great. I'm ready to go. I just kind of need the game to be here. I'm like not Eagles out, but it's been a lot of, the same conversations for the last week and a half. I'm ready to go with the Eagles. I am very much just ready for 6:30 tomorrow. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's been a long time here breaking it down on the station, 2 weeks. I don't know why it didn't feel this way last year or 2 years ago, I should say, when the Eagles made it in 2023. But this feels like an eternity to wait here. And let's get started then. We've got everyone giving their 5 favorite bets. Luke, I don't know if you want to start with your favorite, if you want to build up to your favorite, which way you want to go.
I will go from 5. I'll go from 5. How about that? I'm going to give you 1 Chiefs prop, and the rest will be Eagles. I rarely bet against my own team, but the 1 prop from the Chiefs side that I'm really looking at, number 5 for me, would be Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions at plus 126. I think if it's going to be anybody for the Chiefs, I think we know it's going to be Travis Kelce. I think we know how the Eagles haven't defended sort of great against tight ends this year. And I think when you're going up against a guy like Travis Kelce, I think he's bound to probably have the advantage there. Once again, I'm not a huge, bet props against your team guy, but if there is one guy from the Chiefs that I'd probably look at as far as props, it would be Travis Kelce over 6.5 receptions plus 126. That's number 5 for me.
Yeah, Kelce's a guy. I have a list of bets that I'm not making, that I'm not allowing myself to make, but Travis Kelce's top in the list. Yeah. If you just look at his career, at his playoff career, even just 2 weeks ago, or I guess 4 weeks ago now, but 7 for 117 and a touchdown against Houston. Obviously, he was held quiet against Buffalo, but he hasn't had 2 straight games under 62 yards in the playoffs since 2020. I didn't look at that from a catches perspective because I was looking at the over 62.5. Didn't end up making my list, but I think any way you can bet Travis Kelce is probably a good way. I think he's probably catching 9 or 10 balls for 100+ yards and a touchdown. So you want to go over 6.5 catches, you want to go over 62.5 yards, you want to go touchdown plus 135. All good with me. I think all 3 are pretty solid bets. Anything for Kelce for you, Bernard?
Yeah, that is my biggest fear from this Chiefs team overall. And really what kind of it narrows down for me is none of the wide receivers, I think, really have a chance in sort of this cornerback / secondary matchup with this Eagles team. It's going to be about scheming guys open, and Travis Kelce's obviously going to be their jack of all trades, their number 1 weapon there. So that is kind of what I expect there. I won't be backing them myself out of, rooting interest and hoping that is not the case. But if I had to go any direction for a Chiefs bet, it is absolutely Travis Kelce as far as catches. Also got kind of a sneaking suspicion DeAndre Hopkins could make an appearance in the end zone there. That's one of my fears as well.
Chris Berman gave that out on part of my take. Mm-hmm. He's big on DeAndre Hopkins doing something in this game. And by the way, that's my co-host as always over there, Sean Barnard. We had a little technical difficulties off the top that made me go straight to Luke to make sure we were all good. But that's Sean_Barnard1. As always, you can follow him on Twitter. He's behind the 1s and 2s over there. My co-host on the Tough Cover Show. He'll be giving out his top 5, I think, towards the end of the hour with me here. But let's get back to Luke here. No, he gave out number 5, Travis Kelce, over 6.5 catches. What's number 4?
Number 4 is sort of a combo. Devontae Smith in the touchdown market. I like Devontae Smith anytime plus 260. And I am going to take him first at 17-1. That I think is going to be my first touchdown bet for the Super Bowl. I think it's pretty good odds for the second best receiver on the Eagles. 17-1 there. I don't know. It feels to me like this has a big chance to be the Smitty game. I like a lot of Smitty just props in general. But I think we've seen, how he matches up against the Spags defenses the last few years. The Eagles haven't necessarily, I would say, unleashed Smitty so far in the playoffs. And I think this Chiefs defense, I think this is most likely the shot to do it. So as far as like a combo, just Smitty touchdown in general, I like the anytime at plus 260, but my first bet for this game is going to be Smitty at 17-1 there.
So we're not throwing Smith anytime in there. It's just the first touchdown for the top 5.
It can kind of be both. It'll be like a combo. Smitty in general, the touchdowns. How about that?
I got you. What's up next?
Number 3 is actually going back to Smitty. And I really, really, really like his over 52.5. It's minus 112, over 52.5 receiving yards. Once again, I just feel like this. I feel like this has a very good chance for me to to be a Devontae Smith game. I think when you look Monday morning, and I asked Roy this a few days ago, I asked Tansy this a few weeks ago, we have like the A.J. Brown game or a few weeks ago, we had the Oren Burks game a few months back. If you looked at this Monday morning, who do you think that you could say this was the blank game? And while my answer is Jalen Hurts, I think this has the chance to possibly be the Devontae Smith game, if not the Hurts game. I really, really, really like Devontae Smith. I think it works in his favor that they haven't used him a lot in the playoffs. I think they're just basically looking to just like unleash him tomorrow. So I am really all over most Smitty props, but I like the over 52.5 at -112.
Yeah, I think you look at Devontae's numbers against Kansas City, 6+ catches in each of the 3 games, 99+ yards in each of the 3 games. I think he had 2 touchdowns in those 3 games. I know Sean Barnard is riding with you. You're all over Devontae.
Yeah, that is one of my top 5 bets for this as well. I got it at 51.5 earlier in the week. Still not going to, 1 yard make too much of a difference there. I think Smitty's going to be active in this game. And in particular, sort of my overall wide scale, not to get too deep into this, but I do believe that the clear focus from the Chiefs direction is going to be on stopping Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to live and die with having Jalen Hurts beat them. And I think that's how things are going to be playing out here. So I expect Jalen to be airing the ball out a little bit more than I think is kind of nationally been talked about there. And Smitty better than kind of the perception of him as well. So as A.J. Brown commands all this attention, I think Smitty does some damage over the middle, making things happen. So very much like the Smitty over 51.5 there.
I totally get where you guys are coming from there for sure. You guys know my take. I think it's all about 11 on Sunday.
I love it. I think it can be both of them. Like I think it can be both of them, which is a very good segue into my number 2. Jalen Hurts over 213.5 passing yards at -109. I'm also taking some alt lines. I just think I think he's going to have to throw the ball. I said, just like Sean said, I think the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to do it, but I think their only goal going into the game is to stop Saquon and make Jalen throw the ball. Their goal is for Jalen Hurts to have to throw the ball 30, 35 times tomorrow. I'm going to look at 225 plus 116. I'm going to look at 250 plus 218. And, if I wake up tomorrow and I feel a little saucy, I might look at 300 plus at plus 700. But really his line right now,
and did throw for 300 in the first Super Bowl matchup.
He did. And if he's going to air it out and, everyone's on Goddard and you love AJ and me and Sean love Smitty, it says to you that he should probably go over the number. So Jalen Hurts passing yards, that is my number 2.
Yeah, I think Jalen has a big day. I think he's going to have to. I really do. For all the reasons that you brought up, I absolutely agree. What is the best bet, number 1 here on the list?
Eagles -105.
There
Eagles money line. Yeah. Eagles. It's the obvious number 1. I placed it earlier in the week. I got it at plus 102. But it's the Birds, man. I've said it all week. I think the Eagles can win by a touchdown. I think they can win by 10 if the Eagles play how they played against Washington. I think they could make this game a game that we look back on and think about, hey, that was really never that close. Do I think there's a good chance that happens? No, just because who's on the other side of the ball. But that's my best bet. Eagles money line. I think they win. I've said it since the Cincinnati Bengals game. The second that they came out, and this team has it. They've had it all year. They've had it in the playoffs, and it's the bottom line that they're just the better overall team tomorrow. So Eagles plus 102 for me right now. It's at -105 on DraftKings. But Eagles money line is my number 1 bet.
Love it. What's the score?
Ooh. I said this on radio yesterday, so I'll stick with the same score. 31-20 Eagles.
31-20. Love it. That's an over right there.
Yeah, it is an over.
I have to go back and check to make sure I get everybody's scores correct here in my notes. But for Luke, we got Travis Kelce over 6.5 catches. Devontae Smith first touchdown, 17-1. Devontae Smith over 52.5 receiving yards. Jalen over 212.5 pass yards. Eagles money line for the contest. Luke,
come on.
Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, boys. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Birds. And another member of the contest is Nick Mlay ready to go over there in the Beef Mlay manor with Tubbsy in tow, ready to give his top 5 picks, Sean Barnard.
Yeah, he is popping right on right now. So I'm going to add him right to the mix here. Mlay being thrown right in the dungeon here. So, yeah, take it away, boys.
There he is, Nick Mlay. You can.
How we doing, boys? How we doing?
We're doing fantastic. How could we be doing any better? One day away from the Super Bowl with the Birds, and you can give Nick a follow over on Twitter at NickMcClay22. Does a lot of work with Beef over at Beef Up Front. Mlay, how we feeling?
Good, man. Like Luke said, just get me to Sunday, man. We've been talking about it for so long. I'm just ready for the game to start.
I'd be remiss not to bring up. It sounds like Beef and Mlay had a hell of a night last night.
We did. We had a good one last night.
Beef was smart enough to tape beforehand on Thursday. I think
he was.
The shape he'd be in.
Good move.
Nick,
Good move.
He's a warrior, though. You got to give credit to Nick. Next man up mentality. Waking up in the morning, getting on the tough cover. You got to appreciate it.
Of course, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to get started. I'm ready.
And that's youth right there, because I wouldn't be ready at 11 a.m. But Nick Mlay, I think we have 6 people's top 5 given out so far. Where do you want to lead off with your best bet? Do you want to finish with your best bet? Everybody's got a different strategy on how they want to do it.
I'm going to finish with the best bet.
I think that's the way to go.
So I'll start out here. Travis Kelce over 60 yards. I got has 50 plus in 14 of his last 15 playoff games. And we're very solid on the outside. Eagles are allowing 76 per game, 2 tight ends in the playoffs. In 4 Super Bowls, he's averaging 7.5 receptions and 87.5 yards. It's really hard to go against this Mahomes and Kelce connection in a big spot like this.
Yeah, I was just talking about it before with Luke. I think Kelce is going to have a big day. I think you're getting a lot of shots at Taylor up in the booth with Donna and I guess Jason will be in there. Kylie will be in there. The kids will be in there. The Kelce booth, I think, gets shown a whole heck of a lot in this game. Next up, what do we got?
I'm going another Chiefs one. Patty Mahomes, 29.5 rushing yards. We see in these big spots where if he doesn't have an option, he's not going to force it. He's going to make plays. And I like our defensive line to get in the backfield, make him have to escape. He's ran the ball 18 times already in 2 playoff games. He ran for 44 against us last Super Bowl with a 26-yard run. We saw that run that pretty much sealed that last drive, which was terrible. And in 20 playoff games, he's averaging just this number at 30. So I think, again, this defensive line is going to get after him. I like our edge rushers on these tackles to get after him and have to force him out of the pocket.
Yeah, I know Brace and Roy both in on some Mahomes rushing props, and I think it makes a ton of sense. I think I keep saying it. I feel like I've said it a bunch, and you'll hear it on some of the ones I recorded in the second hour. But this is the game you save those legs for. You know, sometimes maybe you don't design some of those runs if you're a quarterback with the future in mind. There's no future until 9 months from now when they start playing again, or I guess a little less than that, 7 months from now. But this is the game that you save it up for. So wouldn't be surprised to see Mahomes and Jalen kind of both balls to the wall running quite often. Next up, what do you got?
Going with Jalen Hurts passing, 212 I got it at. I like really everything Jalen Hurts. I'm riding him for MVP at plus 350, but I think he has a great day in the air. He threw for 246 last week on 20 of 28 attempts, very efficient. Chiefs allowed Stroud to go for 245 and Allen to go for 237. And in these moments, I think big-time players make big-time plays. So I think Jalen everything. Jalen touchdown, Jalen MVP, Jalen 2+. You can ladder up whatever his yards are, rushing, receiving. I like Jalen in this one.
I totally agree. I think you're going to have to see a big performance from Jalen for them to win this game. And after last Super Bowl, how could you not feel pretty good about Jalen showing up on the biggest stage? Number 2, what do we got?
I'm kind of tailing off Luke on this one. I got this number a little lower, but Devontae Smith, I got it at 49.5, but I like laddering it up to whatever you want. Like he said, the history against Spagnuolo's defense, only 1 game under 100 yards, and it was at 99. Averaging 107 against him. And I love the narrative that he's back home in his home state, grew up just an hour away from the Superdome. And I've been saying it, or I saw this, looking to become the 5th player in NFL history to be a Heisman, Natty Chip winner, and a Super Bowl winner. I love those narratives. And like Luke said, to piggyback off of them, they haven't really unleashed him yet. AJ's healthy. They're going to have to keep eyes on him. Goddard has been unbelievable. They're going to have to keep eyes over the middle, and Saquon's in the backfield. So this is kind of a spot for me to look at Devontae Smith.
Absolutely. No, it makes a ton of sense. And number one, the best bet on the board, Nick Mlay. How we feeling?
Mark, this one's for you, man. Jalen Hurts anytime. You can't not bet it. It's a must bet every single game. You know, when we get in the red zone, you got to keep eyes on him. He loves those step back, drop, draw plays. Yeah. I love that. Watching those plays set up is just beautiful. And obviously, you go with the tush push too. But this one's for you, Mark. I got it at -105. I absolutely love Hurts to get in the end zone.
It's the best bet in sports. How could you not be on this in the Super Bowl? I feel sad to see this go. Like the fact that I'm not going to be able to build this in next Sunday to my plays that I'm tweeting out. It's sad to see it go. At least I got St. Louis unders in college basketball now. But it's quite the same.
Hopefully we don't blow another 16-point spread.
I'm still, it's going to take a bit for me, for Otzelberger to get back on my
Milan's back, Mark.
All right. Well, we got plenty of time to be getting in the weeds on college basketball. The next month and a half of this show, it's going to be like a full-on college basketball fest. It's always kind of how it is in February and March here on the Tough Cover. But Nick Mlay, we got your top 5 here. What's the score? Give me a little game script on how we're getting to a final score.
Score, I'm going 28-24 Birds. Jalen Hurts MVP. I like our defense really to step up in this. And I think it was you that tweeted yesterday, if Eagles allow over 28 points, that's how the Chiefs win the game. So I like that number under 28 points for the Chiefs. And if we keep them under that, I like our chances.
I think I think my tweet was the Chiefs can't win the game unless they score 27.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a bad take. I think the Chiefs are going to score in this game. I think the Eagles are going to have to score 27 plus as well. So I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Your score hits the over there. Most scores that we've gotten have actually, I feel like, hit the under. So the last couple we've gotten have kind of shaded with me towards the over here. But Nick Mlay, thanks so much for coming on. Hope Tubbsy's got a big weekend ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go Birds, baby. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Everybody check Nick Mlay out over at Nick Mlay 22. His top 5 bets there were Travis Kelce, 60-plus receiving yards. Mahomes, over 29.5 rush yards. Jalen, over 212.5 pass yards. Devontae, over 49.5 receiving yards. We'll have to get for all the Devontae props, since there's a lot of them. We'll have to find a yard total to stick that at, so everybody's at the same number.
Hopefully it goes way over, so it's not anything middle of the pack.
Of course. Maybe we'll split the middle. I think there's been 51.5. There's been 49.5. Maybe we'll just say 50.5 to kind of split the difference there. But unless we have Tansy on and ready to go, let's go to Sean Barnard and go to Sean Barnard's top 5 favorite bets here for the contest.
Let's do it. And I'll start off with, I'll go 5-1. So I'm going to leave with a little bit of splash to the end here. So the top 2, my last 2 will be a nice payout here. A little more traditional for the start. We talked a lot about Devontae Smith already, but I got that number at 51.5. I'm pretty cool with like basically anything under 55.5. I basically would play for Devontae for this. I do think he's going to be active throughout this game. There's going to be a lot of feeding him over the middle. And as we've kind of has been the message of this show so far, I expect the plan from Kansas City's perspective to make Jalen Hurts beat them, and that to be exactly the case. So starting off with Devontae Smith over 51.5 yards as my top 5 prop bets there. Next, I'm going to the defensive side of the ball. Nolan Smith over 0.25 sacks. I love the matchup. He's going to be primarily matched up with Juwan Taylor here. I think Nolan Smith has really basically had his coming out party in this playoff run. It's been really impressive. The burst that he has off the line, the kind of elusiveness that he has, I think it's going to be a huge problem. And for Kansas City directly here, I expect their run game to basically be mitigated and leaning entirely on Patrick Mahomes. I think there's going to be a lot of throwing attempts, and that leaves a lot of chances to sack the quarterback there. So if anyone's going to do it, I do think it's going to be Nolan Smith. I think that the Eagles overall are going to be pretty active in that backfield. Also took a peek at over 2.5 sacks at plus 105 odds on DraftKings there. I like that as well. I think the defense is going to be active, and I think Nolan Smith is leading the charge. Number 3, the Mark Henry Jr. special. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. I don't know how you can't have this in your bet slips if you're rooting for the Eagles or have any sort of stake in this game for here. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in the last Super Bowl. He was 5th, I believe, in the league this season. 4 already in the postseason for Jalen Hurts here. Both Saquon and Jalen in the top 8 in the league, and both in the top 2 for this playoff run. So I think both find their way to the end zone for this one. For Jalen at -110 odds, an absolute bargain there. Now, a couple of my bigger swings. First, Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. Getting plus 350 odds for this is insanity to me. I think it is a slam dunk home run bet. And sort of my perspective, when you dive into the numbers, it's honestly kind of surprising how many position players or non-quarterbacks have won the NBA MVP award when looking back on it. But the reality is, I think there basically needs to be a stance for somebody to take the award out of the quarterback's hands. While Saquon Barkley is certainly capable of that, I do think the storyline is going to be Jalen Hurts beating this Chiefs team. I think Jalen's going to be the guy ultimately lifting that MVP trophy, assuming the Eagles do get the job done. And I kind of tied this in here, but Eagles money line as well is sort of a given. And then my big splash here, Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts to combine for 4+ touchdowns. You can get plus 500 odds on that on DraftKings Sportsbook. Those are the 2 primary weapons that are going to be active around the red zone that we absolutely will see. Both very capable of getting 2 each. I even like Jalen had gotten there 3 times in the last Super Bowl. I think splitting that up is a nice way, and we know that those are going to be the 2 weapons. There's going to be no holding back, that everything's going to be on the table. They're not worried about injuries, not worried about the future. These guys are going to be the dudes for this Eagles team. I like getting the plus 500 payout there.
I brought this up to Brace, but Marty Mush actually had like a pretty good idea on Barstool where he's betting Saquon in every quarter to score. I think it's plus 400 in every quarter, or plus something between plus 400 to plus 500, maybe in every quarter. And I think the logic was you'd actually, I think, be even if he scores once, or maybe slightly down if he scores once, and big plus if he scores twice. And then if he scores 3 times, you're feeling really good. Yeah. But I don't hate that at all, and I don't hate the combined for plus 4+ touchdowns either. And a guy who, if I know anything, we're getting a tight end prop out of this top 5. The king of the tight ends, Joe Tanzi, one of our favorite guests here on The Gambler and on the Tough Cover, obviously. And we're going to be having him on a ton as we get into sicko season with college basketball. You can give him a follow at JTanzi90 and check out everything he's got going on over there. Tanzi, I know for everybody else it's Super Bowl weekend, but to me and you, I just want to congratulate you on another St. Louis under.
I'll be honest, didn't bet it last night. Didn't bet it last night.
Oh, no. Okay, that's fair. But you've been riding with me on the St. Louis unders. They've been an absolute cash cow, so everybody keep your eyes out on that. But Joe Tanzi, we got bigger things to discuss. We got the Tough Cover Super Bowl contest here. Everybody giving out their top 5 props, or just bets. Actually, it doesn't have to be props. But where do you want to lead off with your best bet, or do you want to build to your best bet?
I gave this out on our show. We did, myself and Luke did Wednesday night. It was Travis Kelce 60 receiving yards, Jalen Hurts 40 rushing yards in a same game parlay is the base I'm using for all my bets. Look, I know certain Eagles fans are going to be like, I don't want to bet any Chiefs players. The reality of the situation is Travis Kelce's getting the ball. History tells us that. My own 2 eyes tell us that. And just because he had 19 yards against the Bills in the AFC Championship game doesn't mean that's a reversal of a trend. 14 of his last 15 playoff games, he's had 70+ receiving yards. He's gone over, I believe, 80 receiving yards in his 3 previous Super Bowl appearances. It's a slam dunk no-brainer. I'm surprised his number is 62.5. I will absolutely be betting that. Jalen Hurts as well, rushing yards. I believe the number was at 38.5 last time I checked. I'm bumping it up to 40. With Kelce 60 receiving, gets you about plus 200 range in the same game parlay. Look, the Saquon prop, I think everybody kind of has the same opinion. You're either betting the over or you're not betting it. It's too high for me. It just is. I want him to have an incredible Super Bowl, but 112.5 for the Super Bowl, it's a lot. It's a lot, and one big run, either swings your bet either way.
Yeah, that's the bet. It's basically does he break one is kind of the what that means.
But if you're going to bet that, you bet his longest rush.
Sure.
Like you forget the rushing yards. Longest rush, I believe, is in the 20s. You go after that. Like if that's your logic.
I think it's 24.5. Yeah.
Yeah. If that's your logic, where if you're scared if he's going to break one or not, or you think he is, that's your bet, not the rushing yards, because you just need a 25-yard run. I believe he's had one in every game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think you have to, when you're weighing the your thoughts on which bet to make with Saquon Barkley. It's okay. 112.5 is a lot, but is there another way we can do it? Is it first quarter? Because that number is massive. It's like 27.5. Is it longest rush? Is it rushing attempts? Which way there's so many ways you can bet it other than just rushing yards with Saquon Barkley. And I think that's, if you're a little timid and scared by the number, which understandably so, of rush yards, look at the longest rush. Look into rush attempts, because there's ways to win on Saquon if you don't bet the rushing yards.
You want to hear something crazy? We have 8 people who have given out their props. We have I guess Sean Barnard here has Hurts and Saquon to combine for 4+ touchdowns at plus 500. Outside of that, we have That's it. One Saquon.
500?
Yeah.
Hurts and Saquon for 4 TDs at plus 500.
Hurts and Saquon.
Hurts and Saquon.
Yeah, I don't think that's that bad at all. Actually, I think that's probably right around where I'd book that number. I mean, you look at how many times Hurts is scoring in these games, especially in the playoffs. But
27 combined in the regular season, 9 already in the playoffs. I can rock with that.
Yeah, they've been.
Are they scoring 4 touchdowns?
Are they?
Yeah.
I think plus 500 is worth the swing. Oh, are the Eagles scoring 4?
The Eagles scoring 4 touchdowns.
I think absolutely.
I'm of the mindset that this is we can get into that. We'll finish off with your score. But I think if I wasn't an Eagles or a Chiefs fan, I'd be betting the over like my mortgage depended on it. My mortgage, I don't have a mortgage. But I think the over is a lock for me. Maybe that's too much of a prisoner at the moment with the NFC and the AFC Championship. Maybe too much of thinking about the past Super Bowl. Maybe too much of me saying, look how much they scored when it was 38-35 and the Eagles had 17 carries for 45 yards. But I think it's going to be in both teams in the 30s. I bet that I didn't put on. I haven't mentioned it on this whole show yet, and I didn't put it in my top 5. I think either team to score 30 plus is plus money at plus 105. I do like that number. I didn't bet it, but I do like it.
So the only reason I would push back on the over is because of the Eagles' defense, right? Because you can't, to me at least, there's only so much you can pull from 2 years ago because of the Eagles' defense.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we're really looking at that, what's the number, 49.5 now?
I think you can still get 48.5 if I'm not mistaken. But the thing, and I've talked about this, and I think throughout the year, I've been a little higher than consensus on the Eagles offense, and maybe not as sold that the Eagles are going to shut down every team that they face as others on the defense. I think I probably overreact to some things, like the 2-minute drive defense has really been a struggle. You look at the last 2 drives for LA in that game, they got 150 yards in like 180 seconds and in 3 minutes there. The first half drive from the Commanders where they're able to go 40, 50 yards and go get a field goal. And I forget the amount of time, but 30, 40 seconds, something like that to close that half. It just concerns me that I think that this Chiefs offense is kind of perfectly configured to go against our defense in terms of taking the 4 to 6 yard outs and ins and drags and kind of death by a million paper cuts. And they're probably more confident they won't make a mistake. But that's kind of my concern. I'm actually coming into this game hoping the defense kind of proves me wrong. And by the way, I think they're the best defense in football this year. I think it's just a year where the best defense in football isn't like a dominant unit. It's just the best unit. And they're really good. And, I think that they're going to make a couple plays that decide the game. And I think, even if you give up 31, we saw it 41-33. The Eagles gave up 33 points in the Super Bowl. But what are we talking about? We're talking about Brandon Graham at the end of the game making that one play. Maybe we get something similar to kind of how I'm thinking. But so far, what was the odds you got on? I think I pooped out there.
You're back now.
Yeah,
you're back.
Okay. But Beef gave out Saquon over 24.5 longest rush. That's the only other Saquon prop we have on the board. So I think you're right. I do think people are scared off by Saquon. So far you have the Travis Kelce, Jalen same game parlay. What's that at?
That I'm pulling up the odds at now. It is at plus 214 at DraftKings.
Plus 214. That's a good number. I think that's the only one you've given so far. Unless did you pick a Saquon one for the top 5?
Well, I'm taking the 2 singles.
Okay.
Kelce and Hurts receiving and rushing. Not going to touch Saquon, but my advice on the Saquon is if you're going to if you're going to bet Saquon, explore your options before you just go, dive right in on everything else. To me, this game is down to about 5 players. It's Kelce and Worthy on the Chiefs. I don't know how you can sniff their running backs at this point, right? Because Hunt is getting the carries over Pacheco, but P. Ryan's their third down back. And I wouldn't bet it, but he might be involved in the third down passing game. I think that's a sneaky one to look at. But then, and I've talked about this all week, is you have Kelce, he's going to get across the middle. Mahomes is going to him. Worthy, he's been the go-to guy all season, though. He's the number one wide receiver. Who else beneath those two guys, whether it's Hopkins, Juju, Noah Gray, Hollywood Brown, who out of that group, in terms of a betting perspective, can you trust to bet on? And you can't.
I know Noah Gray's sneaky. I wrote about that for DraftKings.
Noah Gray.
Yeah.
I kind of like Noah Gray.
But if Noah Gray...
Oh, you said his name. You mentioned him. You got him.
But if Noah Gray is... Like, does he compete with Kelce? And is it just we're going to ram Kelce down your throats? Like, that's the only concern I have with Gray. I think out of that entire mishmash of depth pieces, he's probably the guy you target. But I wouldn't touch a damn thing with anybody outside of Kelce and Worthy. And it's really hard. I think Hunt gets the majority of the carries, but can he get to 40?
I don't know.
That's the thing. So
I'm kind of the mindset that Kansas City might abandon the run. I think with my theory that I think their short passing game is going to be pretty efficient. And I think they feel comfortable kind of using that as their running game, or maybe even kind of using screens. I mean, how many times in big games in Philly, obviously Andy Reid's a different guy now than he was when we grew up with him. But there was a lot of times where Andy kind of tried to use the screen game as the running game in just running the ball. So I could see that here again.
I think the one to kind of play into that narrative there, Patrick Mahomes to have an interception.
I like
is absolutely on the list. And it's not because of it. The only reason I say that it's because of the trend. Look at his postseason history. Patrick Mahomes has 8 postseason interceptions. 5 of them are in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Two of his three multi-interception games in the postseason are in the Super Bowl. That's a pretty big trend given the amount of playoff games that Patrick Mahomes has played in, just 20, to have such a small sample size of interceptions, and for 3 of the 5 games that he's thrown interceptions, 3 of them to be the Super Bowl, that stands out. Because there aren't many trends you can do with players in Super Bowls. It's Mahomes and Kelce.
Yeah.
And that one sticks out immediately, that the Kelce one as well, with the 70-plus receiving yards and 14 to 15, 80-plus in the 3 Super Bowl appearances. So Mahomes to have an interception is definitely on my list as well.
Like it. What was that number at?
I think it's right around even money.
Oh, okay. Nice. And then your last one here, your 5th one. Where are you going?
And plus 113 for Mahomes interception. So not
has
bad.
it gone up? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, it was even money a few days ago. I'll throw out one that you need a specific script for this, but to go kind of a long shot, let me make sure I get the right number. CJ Gardner-Johnson to have an interception at plus 500.
I like that.
So it kind of goes into the Mahomes prop, right? But again, we're talking about game script and kind of historical trends with the Super Bowl, right? I'm actually going to sprinkle on him to win MVP.
Wow.
Very small sprinkle. But think about it the way everything is going to go. If we think Mahomes is going to throw the ball a lot, right? Well, who's the ball hawk in the Eagles secondary? CJ Gardner-Johnson. If you have that ball hawk, you need to make 1 or 2 massive plays in the game, whether it be fourth quarter or second half, in terms of either a big game-changing interception or a defensive touchdown. Now, the reason why I'd say it's only worth about like $1 or $2 is going back to Ray Lewis. So after Ray Lewis won MVP in 2001, there's been 4 defensive MVPs in the Super Bowl. The margin of victory in all 4 of those games was 14 plus. Again, a historical trend that tells you, unless you think this game is a blowout, don't put a ton of money on a defensive player to win
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we all know as logic in the first place because it's a quarterback award. But history also tells us, unless this game's a 2-score game at minimum, defensive player doesn't have a chance at winning. So I would take a very small sprinkle at that, but I think Gardner Johnson to have an interception is on the list. He's got the most interceptions on either roster. And if the Mahomes trend of interceptions in the Super Bowl runs its course, then you have to pick an Eagles guy to have a pick, and Gardner Johnson's the guy who's got the most.
What do you think of, so you mentioned Super Bowl MVP, and I think everybody's debating Jalen or Saquon, and I think that's the right conversation, to be honest, if you're looking at it from just who's the most likely. But I'm looking at not as big of a long shot as Chauncey, but I've been saying all 2 weeks long, I know all the attention is on Smith props, Goddard props. I really think this is the A.J. Brown game on Sunday. What do you think of A.J. Brown at 35-1 to win Super Bowl MVP? It's actually been 5 receivers in the last 20 years who have won Super Bowl MVP. It was a higher number than I would have guessed.
I like it. I just worry that they're going to stick McDuffie on him the entire game.
Yeah, I think they kind of did that 2 years ago, though. And maybe McDuffie, I think McDuffie was pretty good even as a rookie, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But maybe he's at a completely different level now. But I do think we see AJ kind of get the best of his. And their safeties are just not very good. And I don't care who you are. I think you need a little safety help with AJ over top.
I would actually kind of to compound that a little bit. If you go to DraftKings, you can bet on the position of MVP. Wide receivers plus 750.
Interesting.
Now, that obviously doesn't include Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
But I think the prevailing logic here is right with Kelce at plus 1,500, that if the Chiefs win and Kelce has a big day, it's correlated to Mahomes, and they're just going to give it to Mahomes.
Yeah.
So if you take that out, you're running with – you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Xavier Worthy all in your back pocket if you go to plus 750. Now, I think the data also shows you have to have at least 100 yards and around 9 to 10 catches to win Super Bowl MVP. I think Edelman had around that. Deion Branch had around that. Cup as well. So you have to. There are historical benchmarks for receivers and defenders, especially if you go back the last 20 years in the Super Bowl. But I think to go along with that bet, just because it gives you a safety net of 3 guys, really.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not It's not a bad suggestion at all. I think with AJ, he might not have to get to that 9-10. He might be able to go like 7 for 150, where it's a higher yard per catch than maybe the Edelman and Deion and kind of Cup types. But yeah, it's obviously a shot in the dark. But last but not least, Tansy, what's your final score here? And give me a little game script on how we get there.
It's gonna be close. There's no way around it. It's going to be a close game. Look, 2 years ago scars you, right? Because the Eagles got out to that big lead, and Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter is Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter. Like, you can't deny that. The big difference, though, is the defense is much better, and Saquon Barkley exists, and he's an Eagle. And I think that's what gives you the quiet confidence. I think 27-24 is kind of a fair score. I'm obviously going to pick the Birds. I'm not going to pick the Chiefs, but it's going to be a tight butthole game.
I agree.
Between that and holding in the 50 wings that I'm going to eat, stress eating on Sunday, my butthole is going to have a lot of stress on it.
Here's my question, though, Joe Tansey. Did you eat wings 2 years ago?
You know what happened 2 years? No, not 2 years ago. But when they won the Super Bowl, I got stuck on a Paco.
Oh,
I tried to go. So we watched the. I couldn't tell you what I had at all for the 2 years ago, but when they won the Super Bowl, we watched it at my buddy's house in Cinnaminson, and my wife and I was our first year dating, and the two of us were like, "Yeah, let's try and go into Philly." So we drove down to Camden because it was only like a 15-minute. It was only a 15-minute drive to like Camden. It's like, okay, let's hop on the Paco. We'll see what happens. And we got stuck on the Paco. We got on the Paco, and then it got literally not even half a mile down the track, and the third rail got turned off.
Jeez.
So I hope to create a much better Super Bowl memory than being stuck on a train for an hour and a half.
My plea to people is if there's something you did 2 years ago, do the opposite this year. I think we did wings 2 years ago. We're getting Chinese food on Sunday. That's what we did last for the NFC Championship. We got Chinese food that day. We're kind of trying to bring the vibes to the Super Bowl. My plea to people, do the opposite of whatever you did 2 years ago. Reverse the devil magic, reverse the juju. Joe Tanzi, though, you still went over with that 27-24 on the total. You surprised me. I thought you were going to go low scoring a little bit.
It's gonna be tight. There's enough talent. I'm not betting the side or the over either way, but man, it's gonna be tight.
I could not agree more with you, Joe Tanzi. Thank you so much, everybody. Check out Joe Tanzi at JTanzi90. Go Birds! And by the way, they were going to be airing after my show here at 1:00 for the rest of the day, airing all of the content from all week long. Roy Burton, Joe Tanzi, Luke Arcany, my guy right here, Sean Barnard, Sam Ostry, whoever you want to see from the Gambler. Ryan, I think I said Beef, but Ryan Beef Coyle. Plenty of those guys all week have been for 2 weeks have been making great content. We're going to be airing some of that for the rest of the day and for tomorrow, I believe, as well. So everybody stay locked to Fox Sports The Gambler for the whole day and go check out the YouTube. A lot of action over there. On that YouTube and on the socials in general. Shout out to Beef, shout out to Mlay, shout out to Bernard, shout out to all the social team guys. But I should probably give out my top 5 here since we have everybody else's. We've got 8 total, including mine, and I'm making a change. I'm making a change, and I know you told me you respect my Isaiah Pacheco hate.
I do.
And for the people out there, I will give out all my bets in general, even outside this top 5. But Pacheco under 8.5 longest rush was on this list. And I thought about Pacheco under I think it's 22.5 yards in general being on the list. But everybody else has these juicy numbers, and I'm getting worried that I might go 4-1 and not be able to win because everybody's got these juicy props. So I'm throwing this is probably ill-advised. But I've talked about it all show. I talk about it on some of the interviews you'll hear in the second hour. I think this is your weekend, number 11. I think A.J. Brown, this is the game that when A.J. Brown is inducted into the Hall of Fame, that we're going back and talking about why is he going in as an Eagle? Oh, it's because in the biggest game of his life, he came out and had 7+ catches and 120+ yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns. Give me A.J. Brown MVP 35-1 on the top 5. If I win that, I'm winning the whole thing. I decided, screw it. I'm doing it. And also, give me A.J. Brown touchdown at +180. You look at the numbers, +180 to me is an absolutely disrespectful number for A.J. Brown, a player as good as him. He scored in 4 of his last 6 games. He's scored in 5 of his last 8, 8 of his last 15, 4 of his 8 playoff games, or 4 of his last 8 playoff games, I should say. And in his only Super Bowl appearance, he had 6 for 96 and a touchdown. I think everybody is saying, and I agree with it, how could you not feel good about Jalen Hurts going into this game, having seen how he played last time? How could you not feel good about A.J. Brown going into this game, seeing and remembering how he played last time? I think it's A.J. Brown's weekend. I think it's A.J. Brown's Sunday. I think it's going to be the A.J. Brown story.
I love it. And I do feel like the opportunity is clearly there. That little deep fade down the sideline, that just go route, Jalen throws that ball as well as any quarterback in the league and clearly has the trust in AJ to go up and get it when he gets those opportunities. So pretty much anytime we see the single coverage, I don't care if it's Trent McDuffie on him. I don't care what the coverage pattern is. If you can get AJ Brown a chance in one-on-one coverage, they're going to take that. And I do expect that play specifically to come into fold a couple times during this matchup. So like where your head's at, I think it's going to take a pretty heroic day from AJ Brown to be in that conversation. My sort of stance is I'm personally capitalizing on. I think the +350, getting that for Jalen Hurts is incredible value there. But certainly, who knows? Stranger things have happened. A.J. Brown is that caliber of talent. It would be an awesome story if that does happen. So don't hate that angle whatsoever.
By the way, Trent McDuffie's great. He's fantastic. Really good corner. He's 5'10.5". He's going to be looking how A.J. Brown looks standing next to LeBron. When he's standing next to A.J. Brown. That's how it is. That's just 5'10.5". You can be as good as you want. Going to be a tough day at the office when you're going against the most physical receiver in the league in A.J. Brown. But can you name the 5 Super Bowl MVPs of the last 20 years? Little trivia question.
The wide receivers?
Yeah.
I know Julian Edelman, Cooper Kupp, Deion Branch, David Tyree didn't still after that catch right now. It was just that play. I think I'm only getting 3 there. Who are the other 2?
So you got Kupp, you got Deion, and
Yep.
you got Edelman. But there's also Santonio Holmes from Pittsburgh. And the one this one, Sean Brace, is the only one Sean Brace forgot as well. Hines Ward won one in Pittsburgh as well. I forgot the Hines Ward one completely. So when I was thinking back, I was like, 3. I kind of also forgot that Santonio had one until I looked it up. So I would have got the same 3 that you got there if I was guessing. But my number 3 bet here on the board is Eagles team total over 23.5. And this is the number I keep telling myself every time I get nervous, every time I see a Mahomes number that makes me scared, every time I see a segment on TV where I don't like someone's overconfidence in the Eagles or whatever the case may be. 14-0 when Jalen Lane and AJ start and finish. 14-0 when Jalen Lane and AJ start and finish. 14-0 when Jalen Lane and AJ start and finish. I just keep kind of telling myself that. And if I keep telling myself that, I'll believe it's impossible that we can lose if Jalen Lane and AJ all start and finish the Super Bowl. And by the way, in those games, 29.5 points per game in those 14 games. 11 of those 14, they have went over the 23.5 number. I would be shocked if this game goes under. I would be absolutely floored if this game is not 50-plus points. But instead of betting the over, instead of betting either team to score 30-plus at plus money, just give me the Eagles team total over 23.5. I think that actually might be at 24.5 now, to be honest. But I grabbed it last week. I think you're going to have to score 24-plus points to win this game, Sean.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I like the standpoint. I think that's a great angle with the team total there. There's no world which the Eagles are going to be able to contain Patrick Mahomes to below that level. So if that is the case, you got to put forth the points. I think this team is ready. I do think that there's enough weapons here that are going to be dangerous. And I do give a lot of respect to this Chiefs defense. To be perfectly honest, I think it's been a little bit under talked about how good they've been on the year-long standpoint, but I don't think they can fully stop this Eagles unit. So it will be interesting to see how they prioritize trying to stack the box, stop Saquon, or what angle they go about it. Very different, like stylistically, defenses. Like Vic Fangio, very clearly kind of a keep defenders in front of you. That death by a million paper cuts, I think is a great way to put it, how you did earlier. That's my biggest concern there. Not really the case with this Chiefs defense. That I do think that there could be big plays available. I don't see any world in which the Chiefs can get those like rapid fire strikes on this Eagles defense. It's going to be like, moving down the field slowly, brick by brick, piece by piece, kind of chipping your way there. For the Eagles, I do think those quick strike opportunities are available. So do like your angle. I think the team total is a great play.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but I think that they kind of have the perfect offense to go against our defense. So even though I do think it'll be methodical, I think it's going to be fruitful. Like I think they're going to put up a lot of points. But that kind of just we've been talking about this all week, but
one more question for you. I don't get the Xavier Worthy fear, to be perfectly honest. Like him being talked about as like a number 1 wide receiver and this kind of thing. He's talented. I like from a route running perspective, he's not doing any damage on these corners. He's kind of a little bit more of a gadget guy, I feel. Is there any fear for you in Xavier Worthy having like a big playability or being capable of changing this game?
I actually think people are overstating the big playability a little bit.
Me too.
If you look at just, he's kind of broken out here this past 4, 5, 6, 7 math on the spot here. Sorry, folks. But last 9 weeks, he's kind of really broken out, had 4+ catches in every game of the last 9 weeks. He's had 41+ yards in every game, 60+ yards in half of those. So I do think he's broken out. I think this is like a good version of what he's going to be going forward. Probably if you kind of extrapolate those last 9 games over a full season, I think you could, and I will do that. Actually, I'm curious to see what that looks like, but he only has 4 touchdowns in that. And if you look at his longest kind of play in each of those, 31, 19, 19, 14, 12, 19, 21, 21, 26. Like, do I think he has a 20 to 30 yard play? Probably. He probably gets one in there. Do I think he gets the 60 to 70 yard touchdown that I think people are afraid of? And, Tansy telling me to bet wide receiver at plus 750 instead of AJ at 35-1. I think bad advice because I think AJ is the only receiver capable of winning it. And like you said, I don't think Worthy's having 10 catches for 150 yards. And
Right.
like, I don't think he's the type of guy to get 10 plus catches. I also don't think he's the type of guy at this point that's going to break 2 60 plus yard plays. Like, I think AJ's the only player in this game that can do that from the wide receiver angle. So that's why I went with the AJ 35-1 shot at Super Bowl MVP. Everybody knows what my favorite bet's going to be, so I'm actually going to get it out of the way second to last. But it's Jalen touchdown. Do I need to quote my stats from the last couple of years? If you listen to this show, I don't. It's 12-6 this year at plus 38 units. That's all you need to know. But my favorite bet in the Super Bowl that is not the Jalen Hurts touchdown bet, it's Nolan Smith over 0.25 sacks. Has gotten a sack in 5 of the last 6 sacks in that stretch, 8 sacks in 10 games. And we got to take a break. On the other side, you're going to get another 3 interviews with people giving their top 5 bets to close down the show. We also got to get out our favorite basketball bets of the day. So on the other side, shifting gears, back after this.
Drive, a crash in Audubon on Route 30 at Kings Highway. A crash also in Chester County this morning in West Whiteland Township on 202 South down at Boot Road. The scoop eastbound slow Montgomery Drive to Divine.
Yo.
Eastbound again, glad with the
No, you're good. I'm still not. Can you hear the commercials now? Huh. Okay.
You look at the I'm not receiving yards. We'll have to get
So it's not anything middle of the
Yeah.
pack.
read that black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
You sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise, if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options. Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Get ready for Super Bowl 59 with iHeart, the official partner of the NFL Podcast Network.
This is Cam Jordan from the NFL Podcast Network show, Off the Edge with Cam Jordan.
Join Cam and other podcasts like the NFL Daily, NFL Players, Second Acts, and more.
We'll all be recording live from New Orleans this week. Make sure to open the iHeart app and search NFL to hear all the action and the biggest guests.
Getting you ready for the Super Bowl with the NFL Podcast Network. Just open the free iHeart app and search NFL to start listening now.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. Might could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
In this week's Marketers Report, Corey Marchesotto, CMO of Elf Beauty, partner of iHeart Women's Sports, talks about partnerships.
I see brand as antenna. We send out the elf signal, and what comes back is people who want to be a part of this story. Why are we partnering with iHeart? Because we want to advance women's sports.
As the number one audio company, iHeart Media can get more people to hear your message than anyone else. For better results for everybody, visit iHeartAdvertising.com.
When people say BTK, you think of a wild-eyed, Manson-like character.
Grease the balls because Bourbon Street has officially turned midnight green. All things Big Game 59 right here on The Gambler.
Morning, Paula.
Morning, Mom.
Another day of acid, you know.
What are you working on?
You okay?
Your parents. You said so to you. Oh,
Yeah, gotta order lunch for the big client today. Responsibility comes tabs.
I can help. Close all those tabs and open just one. EasyCater.com. Online ordering from local restaurants. Plus tools, save time, save on budget, and simply
One tab to rule them all.
EasyCater. The smarter way to order food for work. Order now at EasyCater.com.
Hey, this is Nathan Kennedy. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Mercedes-Benz.
The Eagles look to win the Super Bowl for the first time since 2018, taking on the Chiefs tomorrow evening in New Orleans. The Sixers fell in Detroit last night and look to bounce tomorrow, visiting the Bucks. Legendary Hall of Famer, 91-year-old Arnold Steve will be on the call for his last NBA broadcast. And the Flyers look to stop a 5-game losing streak tonight, hosting the Penguins. Thanks to the Rangers' Madison Square Garden.
At Mercedes-Benz, there's a reason they go the extra mile. From testing their vehicles in desert heat and Arctic cold to creating AI that can anticipate your needs, the car is worthy of their skills. It's Mercedes-Benz.
Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Show right here on Fox Sports The Gambler. We just gave out, I think we had 3 guests on, and Sean and I's top 5 picks. We've got 3 more coming here in the second hour. We've got Roy Burton, Ryan Beef Coyle, the Godfather Sean Brace here at The Gambler. We've got all 3 of them giving their top 5s coming up here throughout the hour. But real quick, I do have to give out my basketball plays of the day. Loaded card. I have 8 plays on the board, 3 NBA, 5 college here. My 2 favorite plays actually on the NBA side of things. But at 1 o'clock, I like Virginia Tech plus 8.5 at Notre Dame for 2 units. Go watch these Notre Dame games against Miami and Florida State. 2 bad teams. It's a bad team that shouldn't be favored by 8.5 in any ACC game. Bring Mike Bray back, Notre Dame. Virginia Tech plus 8.5. I think they could win outright. 2 o'clock, one of my favorite bets of the day. Creighton minus 2.5 versus Marquette for 2 units. Seems like these are just 2 teams going in different directions. Give me all the Creighton stock. I'm kind of selling my Marquette stock, to be honest. So a bet that I'm not making, I like Kansas minus 4 against Kansas State. Beef loves Kansas State, loves K-State. Told me don't enter the Octagon of Doom over there in Manhattan, Kansas. I'm staying away. I would go Kansas. Beef goes K-State. But out of respect to Beef, I won't bet the game. At 3 o'clock, my favorite bet of the day, and I'll throw it to you on your opinion on this, Sean Barnard, but I'm a Houston Rockets fan at this point. The Rockets being plus 4 at the Mavs is absolutely disrespectful. I don't care if Anthony Davis is playing or not. I like Houston to win that game outright, and I think that the optimism about Dallas is insane.
I agree with that. And I mean, I think they're going to be a fine basketball team. I agree on the wider sense. The Rockets are better for sure. That is the case there. I'm also very interested to see what kind of the atmosphere is today. There's a lot of talk about, the protesting and fans upset and death threats to Nico Harris and all that kind of thing. I already just saw on the timeline a couple people with signs and protesting out front. So I don't think this is going to be, I guess, the most Mavericks forward crowd is the point that I'm getting at here. I like your angle with the Rockets here. I do think Anthony Davis brings something, and there's going to be a bit of a jolt there, but I honestly feel bad from him from the stance of there's no way that he's ever going to be viewed favorably by that fan base from the stance of what led up to him being sent there. So I like the Rockets play. That's probably one that I'll stay away from, as I'm kind of going to just tune into that game out of curiosity and see how this Mavericks team looks. But I think it wouldn't surprise me if the crowd inside is rooting for the Rockets as much as anybody.
Rockets have lost 5 in a row, so they have kind of fallen a little bit here. But 2 of those are back-to-backs. They had 2 back-to-backs in there, and 3 of those are at Memphis, at the Knicks, and at the Timberwolves. In Memphis, they lost by 1, covered the spread. In New York, they lost by 6, covered the spread. And at Minnesota, they were in that game until there was 5 minutes left, and Ant went insane and went nuclear, and they couldn't get anything going. So I didn't watch that game and come away thinking Houston's falling apart. I still think Houston is a far better team than Dallas at this point. Houston 12-5 against the spread as underdogs. I just think Vegas, and maybe they're right now officially over this last stretch, but Vegas has totally disrespected the Rockets kind of all year long in games against anybody in the playoff picture in the Western Conference. And if you've bet Houston in those situations, you've been doing pretty well. So I'm going to keep kind of riding with them there. 6 o'clock, Cincy team total under 70.5. I think they've only passed that in 4 of their last 16 games. So in 12 games, they've been in the 60s or under. 7 o'clock, love the Spurs tonight, plus 3. Another team I've bet a ton. That number is actually plus 3.5. But I like the Spurs at the Magic, a team that is falling apart over there in Orlando. Spurs are on a back-to-back here, so I get the line. But they did end up losing the game. Fox hit a big shot, and then Charlotte ended up coming back and hitting another. But I like the Spurs to bounce back, plus 3 there. Another NBA one. I'll give you the kind of the floor to react to both. But Thunder minus 2 at Memphis. I think that Jalen Williams being out, I don't care. Give me you. Aaron Wiggins dropped 41 and 14 the other day, so I think they're just fine and just deep enough to handle it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I would have guessed the line is way higher than that, even with Jalen Williams being considered. Chet Holmgren has returned to the floor now. I know he's suited up. Curious if he is available, but this is back-to-back for them, so if he's going to be, right back in the mix here. But Chet looked really good being back in action yesterday. Really brings something defensively to that team, and they're already excellent defensively. So, yeah, I'm with you on the Thunder there. This Grizzlies team, man, I'm starting to sell a little stock in. I'm skeptical that this is actually Yeah, I think I'm very close to getting fully on board to that side of things there. I just don't know if I really see it. The record's great. They're winning a ton of games. They've looked good for stretches, but this Oklahoma City Thunder team I take far more seriously. I think we're gonna see that tonight. So like the play, I might join you in that one.
I really hope we get a Lakers Grizzlies first round series or a I'm trying to think who else would pick them off. A Timberwolves Grizzlies. I think the Timberwolves would get them.
Nuggets maybe.
I don't think the Nuggets going to fall that far.
Fair.
They're sitting there at the 3 seed. I think if anything, the Nuggets might take that 2 seed from Memphis.
That's fair.
The Clippers are interesting. Like the Clippers in a playoff series could go either way. It's just what Kawhi are you getting? So
Yep.
that'll be an interesting kind of thing to watch here going forward. But we got plenty of time to talk NBA. My last 2 plays of the night because we got to get over to the interviews at 10:30. I like the over 137.5 in Northwestern against Washington. Northwestern now 12 straight games where the over is hit. So Northwestern just been an over machine. And then 10:30, I like Texas Tech plus 3.5 at Arizona. I do not believe in Arizona. They're hot right now. I don't believe in Tommy Lloyd. I think he stinks. I think Arizona's overrated. I'm out. Texas Tech's a team I'm in on. Grant McCasland, good coach. I think Texas Tech could make some noise, a serious deep run in the tourney there in a month and a half or so. But that's going to do it for the show. That's going to do it for the Tough Cover. Actually, it's going to do it for this part of the show because
the live part.
On the live part of the show, on the other side, we've got our 3 interviews coming up with Roy Burton at the BS line, Ryan Coyle at Ryan Coyle 35, and Sean Brace at Sean_Brace, all on Twitter. And you get to hear their top 5, 15 more plays coming at you for the Super Bowl. 8 people, 5 plays. What's the math on that? Quick math, 40 plays you got right off this show. We've also sprinkled a couple more in there in conversation as well. So I hope we've gotten you ready for the biggest game of our lives. And one thing I'll leave you guys out on, I think this is the best team Patrick Mahomes has ever played in his career. I think we're a more complete team than Buffalo's ever been. Baltimore never had the receivers. Cincy was a fluke. New England was old. And then if you want to say Tampa beat the crap out of them in 2020, I think that had more to do with Kansas City falling apart and their offensive line being 5 backups now who are out of the league basically. But I truly think this is the most complete team they've ever had to face, 14-0 when Jalen Lane and AJ finished the game. That's going to do it for the Tough Cover Radio Show. Stay tuned on the other side for more Tough Cover Radio Show with our 3 interviews with Roy, Sean, and Beef. Welcome back to the
across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today by calling 844-844-iHeart. That's 844-844-iHeart.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My check engine light's on?
That could hurt your gas mileage. The AutoZone free fix finder service can help find the fix for free.
This whole report for free?
That's right. Printed and on your phone for free.
AutoZone.
This is too tough.
We'll recommend a local shop. Fix finder only at AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Hey man, you all right?
Need me to call 911? No. Call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com.
Spreads, totals, and all the prop bets in between. It's the Gambler.
Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Super Bowl preview contest. That was a little wordy right there. Maybe shorten that up. Figure out a better version of that. But we are doing a huge Super Bowl contest. If you've been listening to the show, you've heard a couple of the Gambler gang already. But we are kicking off the 12 o'clock hour with one of our favorite guests here, Ryan Coyle from Beef Up Front. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Coyle35 or at Beef Up Front. And Beef, we've got to get your favorite props on this game. I know you've been breaking it down from every possible angle over the last 2 weeks. We've both been all over the Fox Sports The Gambler airwaves. You've had your podcast on Beef Up Front as well, and the NFL previews you guys do. I know both of us are just dying to get this game going, right?
Yeah, that's what I've been saying to people. I'm like, I think I know every player at this point, over, under, like their odds, everything in between. It's been kind of glued to DraftKings, glued to Twitter. I'm ready for Sunday to get here. You know, it's nice to have the weekend, but it's even going to be the longest weekend of my life. Just get me to Sunday at 6:30.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely insane how long these 2 weeks have felt. I don't remember it feeling like this in 2023. It didn't feel this crazy long of a wait this time around. Man, I've been ready to kick off for about a week and a half at this point. But we're going to run down everybody's 5 favorite Super Bowl bets. We're going to throw all 5 in a little Google Doc. Maybe we'll tweet it out, and we'll see who gets the most right. We'll obviously tally the records up, but we'll take the odds into consideration as well. And, you know, if someone loses all 4 of their other bets but hits a 35-1 Super Bowl MVP bet, they might pull ahead and win this thing. But there might be a happy medium to go with as well. We'll see what Beef does.
All right, well, I'll start it on my first one. I think it's a game where the Eagles are going to come out and look to be aggressive off the rip. So I like Jalen props a lot in this one. And what I'm going to go with is over 18.5 completions. That's in there at plus 100 on DraftKings. I locked that in earlier this week. As I said at the beginning, I think it's going to be a game where the Eagles kind of look to come out aggressive. I think the Chiefs are going to do everything to sell out to stop Saquon. And that kind of is just going to play into this prop. They're going to make Jalen Hurts beat them. Whether that's a good recipe for success for them or not remains to be determined. But I don't think they're going to let Saquon be the guy to beat them. If he has obviously 200 yards and 2 long touchdowns, I think the Eagles are going to win this game pretty comfortably. If they make Hurts drop back and throw the ball a ton, I think that favors into the Chiefs' hands a little bit more rather than if it was just Saquon getting the ball 25 times. So I think there's going to be areas for Jalen to get 24 to 25 completions in this game. So I'm going to go over 18.5 completions at plus 100 for my first prop.
That's a good number. Is that are you starting out with your favorite, or are we building up to your favorite?
Yeah, I guess building up to my favorite by far, the one that I have the most change on so far.
The suspense. We're building up to the last one. It's like the Sports Center top 10. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a passing game situation where the passing game is going to have to win this Super Bowl. I think it's going to be, you know, we could talk a little bit about the total, but I think it's going to be a high scoring game. And, you know, obviously running the ball can score and you can get explosive plays on that, but you're going to have to make plays through the air. So 18.5 completions feels like a fair number for me. I would definitely take a peek at that. What is coming up next for you on the list?
Number 2, I'm going to stick with Jalen as well. I locked this one in today. I believe it was minus 111, but it's over 259.5 combined rushing and passing yards. I think this is certainly a game where during the regular season over the past couple of years, I think we've seen Jalen protect himself much more as a runner. I think kind of balls to the wall in this game. We're going to see him lower the shoulder a couple of times, you know, screw the knee injury, screw the finger injury that he's apparently dealt with. we're going to see him run the ball when he has to have it, kind of like Patrick Mahomes on those like 3rd and 7s. If nothing's there, either of these quarterbacks are going to look to use their legs. So I think Jalen could certainly get 45 to 50 rushing yards. And as I said at the beginning, I think they're really going to key in on Saquon, force Jalen to beat him. And this Chiefs defense, they love to blitz. And when you do that, you're going to get man coverage on the outside, a couple deep shots to AJ, to Devontae, Dallas over the middle. I think it could be a big Jalen Hurts day. So I'm going to continue to pile up there, 259.5. And with his legs, you can get that a nice chunk of that with the rushing as well.
No, I'm right there with you. I think I said there's no way you win this game without him combining for at least 220 plus. So obviously that's a little under the number that you need for that bet. But I think he's going to cruise over that. I think you probably get like 220 passing yards, 40 to 50, maybe 60 rushing yards. What is just the rushing yards prop on that?
I think his rushing is somewhere around like 29.5. I think Mahomes was 30.5, but I'm not sure exactly. I think the passing, I want to say, is like 212.5 right now. So you have to figure it probably closer to like 35.5, I'd say, on his rushing yards.
Yeah, I might take a look at that. I think we definitely get Jalen Hurts some designed runs or maybe even just some scrambles out of the pocket like we saw last
38.5 is a number.
Yeah, 15 carries for 70 yards and a touchdown in the last Super Bowl. I don't think you get that many touches from him with Saquon around nowadays, but I still think he's going to be used as a runner for sure. What is up next here on your list?
All right, shout out to I think it was one of your friends. You texted in the group chat a couple of weeks ago, Saquon longest rush. I think this number is definitely higher than the one that you put in. I forget if it was the Packers game or the Rams game. But Saquon longest rush over 25.5 at -110. He's gone over this in 10 of 19 games. Obviously not a majority kind of there, pretty even split, but it would be 11. He didn't get it in that Packers game of 25.5 because he slid. That would have been a 50 or 60-yard touchdown, but he's just been a game breaker in the playoffs. And when the Eagles have seemed to needed a play, he makes it. I feel like if the Eagles are going to win, and I said it with the Chiefs game plan there, I think they're really going to just try and shut down Saquon, really limit, especially these big runs. But I feel like if the Eagles are going to win this game, they're going to need one of those trademark kind of home run runs from him, whether it's 45, 50 yards. I think Saquon is just kind of playing like a man possessed right now, and he's going to have one of those game-breaking runs. So over 25.5 for his longest rush. Throw that in there as well.
And then number 4. So are these your 2 biggest ones? Is this your second favorite one?
So this one is the juiciest odds one.
Okay.
I say 4. So this is Devontae, 100-plus receiving yards at +650. 3 career games against the Chiefs. I feel like this stat has been floated out a decent amount of times this week, but 99 yards, 100 yards, 122 yards, averaging 107 yards per game. And against any team or any player in NFL history that's played a minimum of 3 games against the Chiefs, Devontae Smith is averaging the most yards. It just feels like when these blitzes come, Jalen looks to find Devontae against his defense. So I said it at the beginning where you're going to get man coverage looks on the outside. We remember Devontae had that deep catch in the previous Super Bowl, went out at like the 2-yard line, but he's not been held down in the playoffs. I just think he hasn't really been asked to do that much, but he's going to make timely plays when needed. And I think he could have like a 45, 50-yard touchdown in this one. Get that at +650 if you're looking for a kind of swing for the fence type play. I really like that for Devontae here.
I like it. Yeah, everybody's loving the Devontae props, loving Goddard props. And there's a lot of good reason for both. I think that there's good reason to look at all 3 pass catchers when it comes to the Eagles, especially if you're confident like we are that it's going to be a game with a lot of fireworks through the air. Saving the best for last, the biggest bet, your favorite of your top 5. Where are you going?
I'm going Eagles money line, +110, I think it is. So my standing on Eagles money line have from the preseason, I have them parlayed with Ohio State at 71-1 to win it all. So I have that I'm riding with. And then I put them in before the playoffs at +700 to win it all. And then over the past couple weeks, I've sprinkled a little more. Like last week I did St. Mary's live. I did that with the Eagles. I also put them in at +110. And then I have a couple others like where it's like Jalen to score in Eagles, Saquon to score and Eagles. So I've got the Eagles in a bunch of things in a multitude of ways. So if the Eagles win, I'm not only going to be, a very happy fan, but also probably booking like a nice little vacation for myself or something with some of my buddies, whether it's I think we're talking about going to Austin next year for a Texas game or, a March Madness trip or something like that for Atlantic City. Be a very happy man come Monday morning when I look at DraftKings if the Eagles find a way to win, and obviously for the emotional reasons as well.
I had a big future in 2023 on the Eagles, and that was so crushing. Didn't hedge. Also had a second future on Jalen Super Bowl MVP that I think I placed in like the wild card round. It was like 12-1 or 13-1, and would have cashed both of those obviously if the Eagles figured out a way to win this year. There was a couple different opportunities that I liked the number, and I kind of said, you'll be happy enough if they win.
Yeah.
And I didn't bet the prop because I felt like it was bad juju to do it again after 2 years ago. At this point, I'm happy I did that. If they win, I'm hoping that thought doesn't even cross my mind. I'm hoping I'm not even thinking about the loss.
Yeah, exactly. I the money is just a nice little side piece.
But
I'll
of course.
be more than happy enough if they just find a way to win. But at this rate, I'm pretty buckled down with that bet. And I thought the future with the Ohio State one was cooked. That was a pleasant kind of surprise throughout the playoffs, and especially for us, we both hammered Tennessee in that first round game. So from there, I was like, all right, go Ohio State from here, pretty much for me.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a good future to be holding in the pocket. And that's why we listen to Ryan Beef Coyle. Good futures, good bets to be holding in the pocket. Check everything he's doing over at Ryan Coyle 35 on Twitter or at Beef Up Front on Twitter. Beef, thanks so much for coming on. Go Bird. Or actually, I'm sorry. I forgot to get you out of here and leave us off on a score prediction.
That's bet as well already, 31-27. I also put a little change on a 38-35, reverse the fortunes game right there. But 31-27 is my official prediction. I like the over. I think it might be a little bit of a slow start, but I think once the two teams kind of settle in, see what the defenses are attacking them with, I think that we're going to get kind of a similar type of game from last time. So 31-27, and we'll see you on Broad Street next week.
Yeah, I'm going to flip the script, finish the story 38-35. That's going to be what I'm going with there. But, Beef, thanks so much for coming on. Go Birds. Welcome back to the Tough Cover Super Bowl contest as it rolls on with another one of our favorite guests from The Gambler right here, Roy Burton. You can follow him on Twitter at the BS Line and check out everything he's got going on. He's been hosting a ton of Super Bowl content here for us at The Gambler. Roy, how we doing?
We're doing good, Mark. Listen, we're hours away. Like, I know, these last 2 weeks have felt like an eternity. We are literally hours away from the biggest game, maybe of our lifetime. So I'm pretty excited.
It really feels like it with the buildup of obviously having the same damn Super Bowl 2 years ago and getting to repeat this thing again and try to right the wrong. It really does feel like the biggest game of our lives. But here we are talking all things Super Bowl betting props. We had Beef on. We've had Nick Mlay. We've had Luke Arcany, Sean Barnard. We've had all of our guys giving out our 5 favorite Super Bowl prop bets, and now it's Roy's turn. So it's going to be interesting. Some people are doing different strategies. Some people throw in a long shot in there that maybe if they lose a couple, that long shot helps. We're going to take whoever has the best kind of odds based on their 5 winners. Some people kind of going with more straight up bets. Roy, do you want to start off with your favorite bet of the 5, or do you want to build up to that as the last one?
No, we'll go with my favorite bet.
Right.
I'll go with my favorite bet of the 5. Let's go with Patrick Mahomes over 5.5 rushing attempts. The number's kind of been going up and down over the week, but it's at 5.5 rushing attempts at -123. He's cleared that number in both of the playoff games. I think it's going to be a game where he's going to have to get out the pocket a little bit and run, obviously, especially because of the pressure that's going to come up the middle against the Eagles. So give me that 5.5 rushing attempts for Patrick Mahomes. That's my best bet for this weekend's game.
Yeah, I like that. I think you probably see both quarterbacks using their legs maybe more than we see them do in a normal game. And
Sure,
no more games to save them from getting hit. Obviously, this is the game that you saved them for. So, I think looking at Mahomes and Hurts rushing props definitely makes a whole lot of sense. What would be up next here on your Fave 5?
So up next, I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. 2+ catches for plus 146. Eagles allow 4 catches and 28 yards to the running back position per game out of the backfield, and Kareem Hunt's going to be the guy who's going to get most of those snaps out of the backfield. He doubled up Pacheco in snaps in the AFC Championship game. He's probably going to lead that backfield in receptions. I know Samaj P. is kind of lurking out there as well, but I think Hunt's probably going to get those receptions. He's had 6 games with 2+ catches this season. And he's cleared 6.5 receiving yards in 7 games this season. So he's good. He gets a fair amount of work out of the backfield. So if you want to spice up the numbers a little bit, 2+ catches for Kareem Hunt at plus 146.
Not bad. Yeah, it's become quite clear that Hunt's the guy out of the backfield there.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that the Chiefs abandon the run game, which I think only helps Hunt in that case, because Pacheco is not a passing downs guy at all. I think you see a ton of Kareem Hunt out there, at least on the field, running routes, even if they do abandon the run game. What would be up next here on your list?
Up next, I got to go with the Eagles a little bit, show some love to the local team. Nolan Smith, over, a quarter of a sack, minus 102, basically even money. He's had at least half a sack in all 4 of his postseason games in his career. He has 7 sacks in his last 8 games overall if you go back to the regular season. So Nolan Smith, I think, is going to be able to cause a little bit of havoc against a little banged up Chiefs offensive line. So give me Nolan Smith, again, over that quarter sack for minus 102.
Yeah, outside of Jalen touchdown, that's my favorite bet in this Super Bowl. I know Sean Barnard has it on his list as well. So we've got a couple of us here in the contest riding that one. Nice. Any worries that Jalen Carter got him sick? There was the report. I think it was OJ Spivey I saw on Twitter say he was supposed to interview Nolan Smith, and he said he didn't want what he has. So there's been a lot of reports on the Jalen Carter sickness. Any concern about Nolan?
No, not really. I forget who it was, and OJ is a good friend of mine. I forget who it was. Someone on the KC Chiefs, they have some kind of illness as well. I forget who it is specifically. So I think there's just something running around, maybe some bad oysters or something they caught, they had down in New Orleans. But no concerns about Nolan Smith. I think he's been active enough, and he's young enough. You know how those young guys are. Like, you get sick one day, you feel like $1 million the next. So I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, look at Beef. He goes out one night, he wakes up in the morning ready to go out of Tubbsy. Yeah, he's an animal. I had to take a shot. But up next on the list, number 4, where are you going?
Number 4 for me, let's go with another plus money bet. Let's go Travis Kelce, 25 receiving yards in each half, plus 140. I think if the Chiefs have any shot at winning this game, it's going to be a Travis Kelce game. So I think Travis is going to be pretty active in the passing game, obviously, on Sunday. So 25 receiving yards in each half, that's probably like 3 catches. That seems like a very reasonable number for each half for him to get reasonable amount of work. So I like that number at plus 140 for Kelce to clear that.
Yeah, on my list of bets that I'm not allowing myself to make, Travis Kelce over 62.5 and Travis Kelce touchdown are on that list. And for the people out there who want to say he was held quiet against Buffalo, maybe he's just washed. You look at the last 15 games he's played in the playoffs, he's had 14 games over 71 plus yards. The only time he didn't do it was last round. So I think that it's a pretty good bet. He hasn't had 2 straight games since Tyreek Hill was on the team where he went under that total. Obviously a different bet, but 25 plus yards in each half, that's probably even safer to be honest than just betting that prop. So Travis Kelce, I'm going to bed with nightmares of Travis Kelce each night so far in the last couple of weeks here. But rounding it off with your Fave 5, your last bet here, are you going with a long shot, or are we keeping kind of the driver, keeping it in the fairway?
Now we're gonna keep it fairway. Hopefully long and straight down the fairway. I like this bet a little bit more when it opened up, but it's not at that number anymore. Xavier Worthy over 6.5 rushing yards at -103. It actually opened up at 4.5, but a lot of people jumped on it there because 4.5 is a really good number. But just to kind of give you a little background, Andy Reid, according to our good friends over at VSiN, Andy Reid is called a running play for a non-running back, non-quarterback for 20 straight playoff games. And that running play is probably going to go to Xavier Worthy. He's had a carry in 14 out of the team's 18 games this year. He's had 2 carries or 2+ carries in 6 games this year. Again, like I said, I liked it. I love the number at 4.5 because he had cleared that 4.5 number 11 times this year, but he's cleared 6.5, 7 times. So I like it. I don't love it as much as I did before, but I will still stick with the over 6.5 rushing yards for Xavier Worthy at -103.
I like it. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those type of stats. There's also, I think, in each Super Bowl, they've had someone score that's plus 500 or better
Saw that.
in
Yeah,
odds.
that.
So people were trying to figure out who that was going to be. But yeah, I kind of kept it in the fairway with my 5 as well. We'll see if that's the winning strategy here for this contest. But last but not least, I'm letting each person kind of give their score with a little bit of a script with how they think the game goes. Roy, what's the final score?
So I think this is a back and forth affair. I think this is going to be a fairly tight game. I don't think any team is going to kind of get out to a huge lead. But I think it probably comes in a hair under that total. I think we're going to see a game that's going to end up Eagles 27, Chiefs 20 at the end of the day, and the Eagles are going to be victorious and bring home that Super Bowl 59 trophy back to Philadelphia.
Love it. We love to hear it. I think everybody's given us a close game because I think we'd all be shocked if it wasn't. It really feels like this is going to be, Cody Roman part 2. That was a close game. They needed Undertaker. They needed John Cena, needed Seth Rollins in the Shield gear. In this case, it's like Vic Fangio is Vic Fangio's. I don't know. I'd have to figure out who are the Cody Vengers for this Eagles run. Like the second time. It's like Fangio, Vaughn, Saquon, obviously. Yeah. So, Roy, it's always good to have you on here. We just did straight shooters last night with Picone and Vaughn. Everybody check that out with our Rumble reaction. I'd say Roy gave a very objective and reserved opinion about the Rumble, while I sounded like the angriest online wrestling fan of all time. But hey, sometimes that's what you got to do.
Wrestling makes people passionate, and I knew, again, from our conversations, I knew you were very passionate about this. So I told everybody before, I said, you know what? We got to clear out. You got to run the ISO. Mark's going to run the ISO, and he's just going to take over in the fourth quarter, and that's what you did.
Not the USO, the ISO, but I had the ISO on USO there. No, but everybody go check that out. Great stuff from Picone and Vaughn and Roy as usual. And everybody check out all the stuff Roy's got going on over at the BS line on Twitter. I'm sure he's going to have content coming out all weekend long. So check out everything he's got going on over there. Any plugs for the Gambler this weekend for you, Roy?
Yeah, no, a bunch of stuff. You'll hear me probably on the Gambler and all sorts of stuff. I know that we're playing a lot of stuff that we did this week. I was on with Luke Arcany earlier this week, so you can catch me doing that. And then they'll probably replay the Behind Enemy Lines special I did earlier this week. Good friend Savad Davis, longtime Chiefs fan. We kind of broke things down from the Chiefs perspective, breaking things down as far as what we can expect from their offensive line, and whether Andy Reid's playing possum with us in that Chiefs backfield. So if you want some insight from the KT perspective, keep it locked in the Gambler this week for that Behind Enemy Line special.
Perfect. Everybody go check it out. Great stuff from Roy. As always, Roy, thanks so much for coming on. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Thanks, Mark.
Outside of Travis Kelce's going to have a day. So Xavier Worthy is anytime touchdown odds sitting at plus 155 individually. We stack this in our
Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Super Bowl contest here. Woo! And we've got the best and the brightest from the Gambler gang. And we had to get the Godfather, Sean Brace. You can follow him on Twitter, obviously, over at Sean_Brace. Brace, we're hours away. We're sleeps away here from what we've called on this radio station the biggest game of our lives. How we feeling?
Feeling great, man. Just as echoing everybody else's take. Let's just get there already, right? We have broken this game down every which way. You know, credit to the sports books that continue to add new props and stuff, but for the most part, X's and O's, and we hit on X's and O's a lot, but I think we've covered everything, to say the least. So just looking forward to the game, looking forward to seeing how it plays out, and hopefully the birds prevail, man, because that's what it's all about, just getting that final victory.
That's all we care about. But on the side, we're hoping we can make some money a little bit here on
that
the
too.
Super Bowl. More important, no, I do want to make sure people know your bets are secondary on Sunday. This isn't Bengals Rams. We're not talking Niners Chiefs. You know, it's not Bucks Chiefs. The Eagles are in the freaking Super Bowl. Tell me about your parlays after the game. I don't want to hear about it during the game. I'll be living and dying, and I think Brace hears where I'm coming from there. But having said that, it is the Super Bowl. There's props aplenty. We've covered it from every angle. We've all got some of the favorite props that we like, that we're sprinkling on, that we're hammering. And we've got Roy so far. We've got Mlay. We've got Luke Arcany, Barnard, Beef, plenty others. Tansy coming. But we've got to get Brace's top 5 plays here. And I've explained it to everybody a little, but we're going to count it by the odds. So if someone hits a plus 600 long shot and they lose 2 or 3 other bets, they still might win the contest. Some people, I know Roy kind of just kept it in the fairway, minus 110, plus 110 type bets.
Smart.
I think I kind of did similar. I had one
Smart.
plus 80, but no crazy long shots in there. A couple people, I think Bernard's got a long shot in there. Beef, I think, threw a long shot in there. But Brace, do you want to lead off with your favorite bet of the 5, or do you want to build up to your favorite bet of the 5?
I'll lead up with my biggest long shot of the 5.
Okay,
Let's start
I like
there. Yeah. So all it matters is that, look, we're going to go the totality. It doesn't have anything to do with like, hey, his favorite bet, blah, 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 blah. So it's just the totality of the score. So let's stay with that. Let's go my favorite long shot. And I've talked about this multiple times throughout the course of the week, but I'm going to go to it. It's plus 1,500, still available. I don't know if that scares me or not, because I placed this immediately. But 1 rushing touchdown per quarter. Doesn't matter the team, just 1 rushing touchdown per quarter. It's plus 1,500. So that is and it's one of my favorite bets, but that is my biggest play as far as a long shot is concerned, plus 1,500.
A funny one on that note, and not a guy who I necessarily normally give credit to for any bets that I think are smart, but Marty Mush, of all people from Barstool, had an interesting idea. He thinks Saquon's going to go nuts in the Super Bowl, and he was saying, I'm going to bet him every quarter to score a touchdown. I think it's like between plus 400 to plus 500 if you bet individually each quarter. So he was saying if he hits 1 touchdown, you barely lose a unit. I think if he hits 2, you're in the plus. It's not a terrible strategy. If you think Saquon's scoring multiple times and there's a chance he hits 3 touchdowns and then you're piling it up, obviously plus 1,500, you got a ton of juice right there anyway. But definitely not to mention, obviously, when you're counting that rush touchdown per quarter, you get tush pushes as well. So that's a pretty important stat right there. Number 2 on the list would be
Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. I got it at plus 550. It has moved. So lock me in a plus 550. Took it 2 days ago. It's down to 500 right now as we are talking about this here. Plus 500 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So money coming in on that, which is interesting. Let me go ahead and pull up the 3 touchdowns because I did sprinkle just a little bit on 3 touchdowns, and that was at 32 to 1. Let me see let me see if that's out there.
Did it last time?
It is now down to 22 to 1.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Money coming in. Well, look, at the end of the day, here we are. It's the weekend, getting closer. A lot of average Joe money coming in. A lot of people just want to get involved. So that makes sense. But 22 to 1, got it at 32 to 1, missed 36 to 1, or maybe 38 to 1 was the first time I saw it. But it was some number that was like, wait a minute, that's possible. But I'm comfortable. I love the 2 touchdown play. I think anybody and everybody should have it. Plus 550, plus 500, 2 touchdowns. look, man, if Jalen Hurts is going to lead this team to the promised land, he's going to score at least one. And if he gets one, then you're in the ballpark. You're in the running for two. So hopefully that's the case, and it will lead us to another play of mine as well.
Are you double dipping with Jalen touchdown as well?
No, I'm double dipping with Jalen MVP.
Okay, all right. You're going with the odds here. So if you hit one of these, you might only have to hit one of your last two. It's not a bad strategy.
Yes. Jalen plus 350 for the MVP. And look, I just think Saquon can and will, and he'll go off, but I just feel like the voters don't really break this one down in great detail. Now, I know that there's been some receivers that have won it over the years, a lot. Matter of fact, we talked about that. But Jalen, if the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, it's not like because Jalen Hurts didn't do anything. He's going to have to make plays. He's going to have to throw the football. And I do expect the Eagles to be aggressive. And I think Jalen's going to get his. So I love Jalen Hurts MVP. Give me that plus 350.
Yeah, people keep bringing up Spags, and people keep bringing up he's going to throw confusing blitzes at Jalen, and it's going to be a tough matchup for him. We saw the matchup 2 years ago. This Chiefs defense is actually, you could argue, maybe not quite as good as that Chiefs defense was, or at least pretty similar. And they didn't have any answer for Jalen in that game. They had a heck of an answer for Kenny Gainwell and Miles Sanders and Boston Scott in the run game. But that's a little different now with Saquon. But any Saquon bets making the top five here?
You know, I'm not taking any unders, as I've seen plenty of people say. I like the under on this. He's now down to 111.5. There's crazy numbers. We know what the Chiefs did this whole season with the standpoint of only giving up 100 rusher in week 1 against Lamar. If I'm not mistaken, Mark, there's 24 starts, 24 appearances as defensive coordinator for Steve Spagnuolo. He has yet to give up a 100-yard rusher in the playoffs. So 24 opportunities as a defensive coordinator. Nobody has gone for over $1. I do believe that ends on Sunday, and Saquon's just an absolute stud. But could he end up with 105 or 110? Sure, and that would be a terrible beat. But he averages 128 yards, and this is at 111.5 number now, which is way down from what it was in the NFC Championship game. So I wouldn't hate if you said take it, but I'm going to avoid Saquon. There's nothing really there grabbing me. I'm all in on Jalen Hurts just because of what we know over the years and watching and how things operate inside that goal line opportunities. So Saquon hopefully hits a couple home runs. That's all that matters, and he gets into the end zone, but I'm going to roll with Jalen more than Saquon.
So number 4, have you given your best bet yet here, the top 5, or are we saving that for last?
Best bet we'll save for last.
Okay.
Now, I was up in the air. Here's number 4. I was debating on going the rush yards total, but I'm going to go with another swing here. I'm going to take another swing, and I have it, and it's open. And I just want to make sure that I'm spitting it correctly. But it is the longest rush. This is a swing for the fences at plus 1,000. Both quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, to have a rushing yard, a longest rush of 20+ yards. It is at plus 1,000. So both quarterbacks need to have one rush of over 20 yards, and it's a big-time swing at plus 1,000. Yes. I'm going to roll with that here, just for S and giggles. I was going to go with his longest rush, Mahomes. I was going to go fourth quarter rushes. I'm kind of like thinking that might be a good play as well. 29.5 is his number. I love both quarterbacks going over their number. Jalen Hurts is at 38.5. Patrick Mahomes at 29.5. But I'll stay away from that. Let's just go with the swing for the fences. I want the victory. Give me that. Give me that.
A lot of rushing props. I know Bernard's on Jalen's rushing. Beef's on Jalen's combined passing and rushing. Roy's on Mahomes over rush attempts. I totally agree with all you guys. I think both quarterbacks will be running. I mean, this is what you save up for. Like, the reason that you don't run your quarterbacks as often as you want to is you don't want to get them hurt. But that goes away in games like this. This is the game that you're saving it all up for. But Brace, the 5th and final, the best bet for the Tough Cover Super Bowl contest here. Where are you going?
Mahomes as my two.
It's tough because it could go, like you said, get it into fairway. But we're going to Dallas Goedert. And I'm flipping a coin between either anytime touchdown or the receptions or the yards. Oh, man. Because, like, I want to win. You want to walk away with the victory. And that's the most important part. Let me just see where his.
What are the props at? Because I know that early in the week, he was the most bet guy on the board I saw. And I actually, out of so far, me, Bernard, Roy, Beef, you, this is the first Goddard prop that I've gotten on the board. And I thought everybody was going to have him. Last couple games, 4 catches, 7 catches, 55, 47, 56, 85, 2 touchdowns in that stretch. Where are the props at now?
4.5 for receptions, 51.5 for yards, anytime touchdown. I'll come back to that in a second. So here's my line of thinking. What we saw against the Commanders is not what we're going to see against the Chiefs, right? The way that the defense was set up for the Commanders, it's almost like they allowed one-on-one on the outside and those guys to get open and Jalen to be comfortable throwing the football. I still feel like that it's going to be, Jalen's going to be comfortable, don't get me wrong, but I do think like they're going to have some slide of a double coverage towards AJ. It's not going to be that easy to find AJ Brown. Devontae could be the play. I know that he's ripped up the Kansas City Chiefs, so that kind of makes me feel like, hey, that's how they have played the Eagles before, sliding coverage towards AJ. So it's either between Devontae or Dallas, but you're right. Everybody is on Devontae. So where they're zigging, I'm zagging. Give me Dallas Goedert to a point. But you know what? And to get a win, we're going yards.
I think yards is the way to go.
Yep, we're getting a win because I want to go anytime touchdown, but I'm not walking away without finding a victory with Dallas. 51.5 currently on DraftKings Sportsbook. Over under receiving yards. Let's roll with that. Excuse me, 52.5. So unfortunately, we got to throw that yard in there. 52.5 at -108 right here, right now. Let's lock that in. Dallas Goedert over in yards. The chemistry's there. I think the opportunity is going to be there. Dallas is highly athletic too. And if you remember in Super Bowl 57, he made a couple big plays where he went up and got the ball. So I think that he could be a little bit of a safety blanket too with the exotic blitzes, maybe on third down. Getting Dallas Goedert involved early is not a bad thing. Give me DG over 52.5 as my best bet.
Love it. And last but not least, give me your score here. What's the final score and how are we getting there?
Eagles roll.
Uh-oh.
I think Eagles are throwing 40 up.
Oh,
I do.
Man.
I think the Eagles I think the Eagles are scoring 40. I just feel like they're hitting their stride. They're confident. And I've been banging this drum about the motivational factor. Like, there are plenty of people taking the Eagles, but man, when it comes to media, 3P, Andy, Mahomes, like enough of that. The Eagles are a damn good football team and they're going to show everybody. I think they score 40. I do. I think they get to the 40. Give me 41 by themselves and give Mahomes we'll go 24, 41-24 final score. Eagles roll on Sunday.
Yeah, if I'm out there not an Eagles or a Chiefs fan, I'm hammering the over because I totally agree. I have 38-35, so heck of a ton of points.
You got 38-35 again.
38-35, flip the script. Eagles
we
win.
win. Oh, my God. That would be so cool.
Look,
38's not far off of 40. So at the end of the day, we are somewhat seeing it similar. I do. I think, man, Saquon is a man on a mission. This offensive line is damn good. I got nothing but respect for Karlaftis and Chris Jones and of course, McDuffie at the cornerback position, Spags. But I just think this offense being doubted at this point in time on a dry track indoor. Let's go.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we get a whole heck of a ton of points. We got a whole heck of a ton of points last time in a game where Jalen fumbled the ball and they returned it for a touchdown, and in a game where the running backs had 17 carries for 45 yards. So that's not happening. Whatever they do to Saquon to bottle him up, maybe to limit the pain, maybe you don't get the explosive 40-plus yard plays. He's not getting 17 for 45. He's doing better than that. He's at the worst getting 90 yards, I think, personally. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a different story this time around. What worries me is the other side of the ball, but we don't have to talk about that right now. But you have to feel good about this defense compared to the other year. So we got all the Gambler gang hitting this from every possible angle all day long. We're airing all the content we did from all week. Brace is on a heck of a lot of that content. Check out everything over at Fox Sports The Gambler on YouTube, on Twitter. Sean Brace over at Sean_Brace. Thanks so much for coming on, boss man.
Anytime, Mark. Always a pleasure kicking ass and taking names on a Tough Cover Race show. And I just said that out loud. Eagles 42, Chiefs 23. Good grief. Here we go.
Sheesh. Go Birds.
Go Birds.